Two more questions here. This, you can see I've already labeled it, so if you need to pause here, you can, and you can label. I've got perimeter and area, but this area of C is made up of one rectangle, two triangles, and then a half circle or a semicircle. And for the other one, it's a whole bunch of rectangles, and you'll see here I've got 3 small and 1 large, but I haven't broken it up quite yet, and I'll wait till we get there, and I'll show you what I was thinking, though you can do something a little bit different if you want. Let's take a look at C first and do the perimeter. So the perimeter, I don't really like this. Let's take a look. This would be 10 yards as well, because the top is 10, so the bottom must be 10. Given that this is a rectangle, you know it's a rectangle because it has this 90-degree symbol here. So I've got on the bottom, I've got 5, 10, 5. But then I also have 13 over here, 13 yards. So I've got 2 13s, 2 5s, and a 10. But then I don't have this top part. And that's what was wrong with the other one. I didn't know that distance. Now that distance is a circumference, or the perimeter, which is what I'm trying to find. I'm trying to find the perimeter of the whole thing. So I got to find the perimeter or circumference of a semicircle or a half circle. So I'm going to have to find the circumference of a circle, then I'm going to have to divide it by 2. So that's what I'm going to need to find this part for the perimeter. So let's start with that. So let's do this half circle part. So that's the part that I'm going to do first. Maybe I'll do a dotted line here. Now the diameter of this thing I think was 10, so this radius is going to be 5. There we go. So to find the circumference, to find the perimeter, it is 2 pi r. And remember that pi is 3.14, and the r, the radius, is 5. I'll do the easy part first. I'll go the 2 and the 5. The 2 and the 5 is 10 times 3.14. And I like when things are multiplied by 10, and if I have decimals, I can move the decimal place over. So instead of 3.14, I can go 31.4. So that makes things a lot easier. And this is yards? Yeah. Yards. Oh, but it's not 31. That's for a full circle. But then I need to cut this in half. I need to divide that by 2. So the perimeter of the half circle is half of 31. And if we can do it this way. 2 into 31.4. So if you want to do some, no one really wants to do a long division. Can understand that. But let's actually just do it. 2 into 31.4. 2 goes into 3 once. 1 times 2 is 2, and you can subtract it. Carry down the 1. 2 goes into 11 5 times. 2 times 5 is 10. Subtract it. Carry down the 4. 2 goes into 14 7 times, which 7 times 2 is 14 with 0 remainder. So the perimeter is equal to 15.7 yards. So maybe you already knew that. Half of 31.4 is 15.7. You wouldn't have to show your work. But again, we're trying to do this without a calculator. So my perimeter, therefore, whoops, hate when that does that. Well, now that I'm here, this circumference is the circumference of a circle cut in half. And we found that to be 15.7 yards. And we've got, so for the perimeter for everything, we have 15.7, we have 2 13s, and then a 5, 10, 5. And this is at 15.7. So therefore, the total perimeter, so there's the 15.7, And then we have 2 13s. Those are from the triangle sides. And then a 10 and 2 5s. Well, I'll make those 2 5s another 10 because I'm running out of room. So I get a 0.7. 5 plus 6 is going to be 11. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 61.7 yards. That is my final answer. That I'll zoom out here. That's an incredible amount of work. We had, like for the other things, like as soon as circles come in, it becomes way more difficult. The original ones that we did earlier, those are all just lines, and we can just see them. They're 13, 13, 5, 10, 5. But for the perimeter, you're going to have to always, of a circle, you're going to have to use the circumference formula. And because this was a half of a circle, we had to cut that in half as well. So I found just to recap there, I found my perimeter of the circle to be 31.7, and then cut that in half to get 15.7, and I did some long division. Now I'm going to look at some area. So I have the area of a rectangle. Now the area of a rectangle is base times height, and my rectangle is base of 10 and a height of 12. So 10 by 12. So my area is going to be base times height, which is 10 by 12. And that gets me 120 yards squared. Now my triangle area is, you have to have this memorized, base times height cut in half. Now what is my base and my height for a triangle? There's two of them and they're both the same. So my base is 5 and my height is 12. So 5 times 12 and then cut that in half. 5 times 12 and then cut that in half. Now 5 times 12 is 60, cut in half is 30. So there's 30 of them. However, there are 2 identical triangles. So I'm going to times this by 2. And I'm going to get 60 yards squared. So 2 30s. And then I've got a semicircle. So the semicircle, an area of a circle is pi r squared. But then whatever that is, we're going to have to divide by 2. Because we're going to cut it in half. So we're going to have pi 3.14 r squared. Oh, I don't know the radius. Do I know the radius? Oh yeah, with the diameter, wasn't it 10? The diameter 10? And the radius here would have to be 5 yards. So 5 squared. And then take that and divide it by 2. Whoops, I'll move that after. So this is 3.14, and 5 times 5 is 25, and then divided by 2. Now, this could be done a couple different ways, but I'm thinking I'm going to have to multiply these and then cut them in half. But just to change things up a little bit, I'm actually going to take 25 and cut it in half. Now 25 does not cut in half evenly, but if you had $25 and you cut that in half, you would have 12.5. So I have 3.14 and 12.5. And this is actually a good example to remind you how to multiply with decimals. So in this first one, 314, I moved the decimal place twice. And here I'd have to move it once. So there's a total of 3 decimals. I'm going to write 3 decimal places here as a reminder here. So we're going to multiply this, and then I'll just make sure to do 3 decimal places. So 5 times 4 is 20. 5 plus the 2 is 7, plus the 15 start with a 0. The other one will start with 2 zeros. This is going to be 2 times 4 is 8, 2 and a 6. And then 1, oh, 1's nice because it's going to be 4, 1, and a 3. So I can add this. All these zeros are 0. 7 plus 8 is 15. 5 plus 9, 10, 11, 12. 6, 7, 8, 9, and the 3. And then I have to remember 3 decimal places, so I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. So it's going to equal 39.25 yards squared. So that is for a half circle. So what do I have here? I've got 1 rectangle, 2 triangles, and then 1 half circle. 120, 60, and then that. So I'm going to put a big therefore. My area is the 120 plus the 60 plus the 39.25. 120, 60, yes. So if I had to add those, 9, 6 plus 3 is 9, 10, 11, and 2. So it equals 219.25 yards squared. That is a crazy question. I'm going to zoom out here, and you're going to see this giant mess of things, and you're going to have to make your own notes and make sure that you can make sense of whatever it is that you write. So I'm waiting for my computer. It's slowing down so much because I guess I've written. There's a lot of ink on this. So for perimeter, I had to get a half circle for my perimeter. So I found the perimeter of a circle, cut it in half. I got 15.7. And then plus the other parts of the perimeter, so 13, 5, 10, 5, and 13. For the area, I had to find the area of the rectangle. I had to find the area of both triangles. So I did that, and then I had to find the area of a circle. So the area of a circle, but it was actually a half circle, so pi r squared, and then I had to cut that in half because it was a half circle. 5 squared is 25. I took 25, I cut it in half to get 12.5. I multiplied those together. There's 3 decimal spots that moved, so I made sure to move them back. And then I took all 3 of those numbers and added them together to get my total area. Now D is not as challenging because there are no circles. So perimeter, we can just add all of these things up. It might be helpful for us to label a little bit. So this is 5. And it has that little thing. So that must be 5. All of these must be 5. Okay? And 5. I'm trying to write this nicely, but it's just going to... It might just be a bit of a mess. 5, 5, and 5. And that asks the question, well, what on earth is that? So, if this is 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, then the other side must also have a distance that matches, so this also must be 25. So that's 25. Those are 5. Whoops, I didn't want to erase that part. But whatever, I'll leave that like that for now. I know that my top is 15, and that is the same. So this must be 15 right here. And then all of these inside ones are 10. So this is 10, this is 10, and this is 10. And that's 15. So you're going to have to add all of these up. And it's actually not too bad. There's a ton of numbers here. 15, 5, 10, 5, 10, 5, 10, 5, 10, 5, 15, and 25. So maybe I'll start with the 25 and then work my way around. I'm going to write this all vertically. So perimeter equals 25, and then I had the 15 for the top. And I'm just going to scroll down a little bit here. 15, and then I've got 5, 10, 5, 10, 5, 10, 5, 10. So 1, 2, 3, and then another 5. Okay, so 4 5 10s, and then another 5. 5, 10, 5, 10, 5, 10, 5, 10, and then a 5. So 5, 10, 5, 10, 5, 10, 5, 10, and then another 5, and then the bottom was a 15. So that is everything all the way around. It's not too complicated. You just have to make sure you get everything, but I would much rather do that than try to find a circumference of a circle and then cut that thing in half. That was incredibly annoying. Adding all of those up will then get you 120, I don't know, I think they're centimeters. So 120 centimeters. So not bad. The area. And I broke it up into 3 small rectangles and 1 large rectangle. And yeah, I guess you can kind of do this anyway. I'm just going to try to scroll up, but I guess things aren't working. Hold on. There we go. So I was thinking that we're going to have this rectangle, this rectangle, and this rectangle. So 3 smaller rectangles, and they're all base times height, so 10 times 5. And then we would have a larger rectangle that would be right here. And so that would be, the height would be 25. And what would the base be? Well, the base is 15, but then this is 10. So what does that leave this little leftover area? Leaves it to be a 5. So I'm taking 3 small rectangles and then 1 large one. And I'll do the small ones first. Again, the base is 10 and the height is 5. So 10 by 5. So I've got area is base times height, which is 10 times 5. So area equals base times height, which in this case is 10 times 5, which is 50. And then there are 3 of them. So I get 150, what is it, centimeters squared. And then the smaller rectangle, so these were the 3 small rectangles that I did. Oops, the 3 small ones. Make sure this is working. Yeah, there we go. So I did 3 small rectangles. And now I'll do the 1 large rectangle, which I'm trying to do in orange here, but there we go. And that is base times height, and my base is 5, and my height is 25. So 5 times 25. So area is equal to base times height, which is 5 times 25, which is 125 centimeters squared. Therefore, what is our total area? That's what we want to state. Therefore, our area is equal to the 150 and the 125. 150 being the 350 areas, and then the 125 for a total of 275 centimeters squared. So that is the end. That is the most complicated questions here, C and D. And there we go. And we will be working now with surface area and volume, and that stuff is, I think, a lot easier. This is just zoomed out here for you just to freeze the screen a little bit, and well, I don't know if I can zoom it anymore here, but for you to see everything and hopefully make some very well-organized notes for yourself.